What if I told you that the words you speak to someone could either destroy their confidence forever or unlock a greatness they never knew existed? The secret to giving feedback isn't about pointing out what's wrong. It's about showing what's possible. And once you understand this, you won't just change how people see their mistakes. You'll change how they see themselves. Stay with me till the end, because this one insight could completely transform the way you impact lives. Great feedback isn't about pointing out flaws. It's about unlocking hidden potential. Most people think feedback is a spotlight shining on mistakes, a way of proving where someone went wrong, but that's only half the truth. And in many ways, it's the least important half. The real secret is that feedback, when given well, becomes a key that opens doors a person didn't even know existed. It's not about tearing down. It's about building up. Think of the times in your life when someone believed in you more than you believed in you, more than you believed in yourself. Maybe it was a teacher who noticed your talent when you only saw average. Maybe it was a boss who gave you a bigger responsibility when you doubted your skills. Or maybe it was a friend who said, "I know you can do this," right when you were about to quit. That is feedback in its purest and most powerful form, not just pointing out what could be better, but awakening something inside you that you hadn't yet discovered. The truth is, we're all far more capable than we think. But the challenge is that our own limitations often blind us. We see the barriers, we notice our mistakes, and we hear the inner critic in our heads louder than any applause outside. Great feedback breaks through that fog. It doesn't just say, "Here's what you did wrong." It says, "Here's what you could become if you try again." That shift changes everything. Let's imagine two scenarios. In the first, a manager tells an employee, "Oh, you didn't do this project right. Fix it." In the second, the manager says, "Our research was thorough. Your ideas are solid. But if you present it with a stronger structure, you'll make twice the impact." Oh. Which one feels like a dead end? And which one feels like a chance to grow? That's the difference. One shuts the door, the other opens it wide. Unlocking hidden potential through feedback means you stop treating feedback as a verdict and start treating it as a... It's no longer about giving grades. It's about giving wings. Imagine telling a young athlete, "You're too slow, you won't make it." That crushes them. But what if instead you said, "Your strength is in your stamina. If you train your speed just a little more, you'll be unstoppable." The facts might be the same. The athlete isn't fast enough yet, but the framing changes the meaning completely. One version limits them, the other fuels them. What most people misunderstand is that feedback is not about the present. It's about the future. When you only highlight flaws, you trap people in the now. When you highlight potential, you push them forward into what they could achieve. And people always respond to the vision of what they could be, not just the reminder of what they are. Think of feedback as a mirror, but not a regular mirror. A regular mirror shows you exactly what you look like right now. A feedback mirror, when used wisely, shows you not just the reflection of who you are, but the shadow of who you could become. It allows you to see the possibility beyond the present. That's what makes it powerful. It doesn't just reflect, it reveals. This is why great leaders, teachers, and coaches are remembered. It's not just because they told us when we were wrong. It's because they saw us something we hadn't yet seen in ourselves. They had the ability to look past the mistakes and recognize the hidden gold. And the moment they revealed it to us, we started to believe it too. The irony is, feedback done badly often discourages. It makes people shrink, hide, or stop trying. But feedback done well, it makes people grow. It lights a fire in them. It tells them, yes, you have flaws, but your strengths are bigger than your weaknesses. Yes, you missed the mark, but you're closer than you think. Suddenly, failure doesn't feel like the end. It feels like a stepping stone. And that's exactly why feedback is not about flaws. Flaws are surface level. Anyone can point them out. True feedback digs deeper. It asks, what strength is hiding beneath this weakness? What opportunity lies beneath this mistake? What ability is waiting to be sharpened here? And it be sharpened here. It's about unlocking, not locking down. Think of Michelangelo staring at a block of marble. Most people saw just a heavy stone, but he saw the figure of David hidden inside it. He once said, I saw the angel in the marble and carved until I set him free. That's what great feedback does. It sees the angel in the marble. It sees the masterpiece hidden inside the rough sketch. And with the right words, with the right guidance, it helps carve away the doubt, the fear, the mistakes, until the true potential emerges. When you give feedback like this, you don't just correct performance, you shape identity. You teach people to stop defining themselves by their mistakes and start defining themselves by their possibilities. And that shift lasts far longer than any single piece of advice. It changes how they see themselves forever. The secret lies in balancing honesty with empathy. When people feel valued, they're open to growth. Feedback is often misunderstood because people think it's a choice between being kind or being truthful. Some sugarcoat so much that the message never lands, while others are brutally honest, leaving scars instead of lessons. But the truth is, neither extreme works. The real power of feedback is found in the delicate balance between honesty and empathy, a place where truth meets respect and where the listener doesn't just hear the words but feels the care behind them. Imagine telling someone, "This is terrible, you need to fix it." Technically, that's honest. But does it help? Probably not. Now imagine telling someone, "This is amazing, don't change anything," even when you know it's flawed. That feels supportive in the moment, but it's not real. It's false comfort that leads nowhere. Neither of these approaches unlocks growth. But when you say, "You put great effort into this, and if you tweak this part, it will shine even brighter," suddenly the person feels respected, encouraged, and ready to improve. That is the magic of balancing honesty with empathy. The reason this balance matters so much is because human beings are wired to protect themselves. When we feel attacked, we shut down. Our brain stops listening, and instead of learning, we start defending. But when we feel safe, when we sense that the person giving feedback truly values us, our walls come down. We're not afraid of the truth anymore because we know it's not meant to harm us. It's meant to help us. Empathy turns truth into a bridge instead of a weapon. Think about the feedback you remember most in your life. Chances are it wasn't the harshest criticism, nor was it the empty praise. It was probably the words that struck a balance. Maybe it was a teacher who said, "Well, you're a strong writer, but if you organize your ideas better, your voice will be even clearer." That single piece of guidance might have stayed with you. Not because it was harsh and not because it was overly kind, but because it was honest and empathetic at the same time. Honesty gives feedback its weight, but empathy gives it its wings. Without honesty, there is no growth. Without empathy, there is no willingness to grow. When you combine them, something powerful happens. The person receiving feedback doesn't feel judged. They feel guided. They don't feel small. They feel capable of becoming greater. Consider how leaders shape their teams. A leader who is only honest creates fear. People follow out of obligation, not inspiration, and they make mistakes in silence because they're too scared to admit them. A leader who is only empathetic, but not honest, creates complacency. People feel comfortable, but they don't stretch themselves. They don't rise beyond mediocrity. The truly great leaders, the ones who leave legacies, are those who look you in the eye and tell you the truth, but tell it in a way that makes you feel seen, respected, and capable. Balancing honesty and empathy doesn't mean softening the truth until it disappears. It means delivering it in a way that builds, not breaks. Think of a coach on the sidelines. If an athlete misses a shot, screaming, "You're useless," might be brutally honest in the heat of the moment, but it destroys confidence. Pretending the mistake didn't happen isn't helpful either. But saying, "You've got the skill, reset your focus and take the shot again," is both honest and empathetic. It points out the mistake, but also conveys belief in the person's ability to correct it. That kind of feedback doesn't crush, it motivates. What makes empathy so powerful in feedback is that it communicates one essential truth. I value you as a person beyond this mistake. When someone feels valued, their ego doesn't need to fight back. Instead of feeling like their worth is being questioned, they see the feedback as a chance to grow. And that is when real transformation happens. This balance is not just about words. It's about energy. It's about tone, body language, and intention. The same sentence can either hurt or heal depending on how it's delivered. Saying, "You need to improve your communication skills," with a cold, dismissive tone creates defensiveness, salsa. But saying it with warmth, "You have great ideas, and if you sharpen how you communicate them, people will connect with you even more," changes the entire impact. The words are honest, but the empathy behind them makes them inspiring instead of discouraging. Discouraging. At its core, balancing honesty and empathy is about remembering that feedback is not about proving someone wrong. It's about helping someone grow. It's not about showing authority. It's about showing support. Support. It's about respecting the person enough to tell them the truth, but caring enough to tell it in a way they can actually use. And this balance is not only for leaders, teachers, or bosses. It's for everyone. Parents giving guidance to children, friends supporting friends, partners helping each other grow. It applies everywhere. Whenever you want someone to hear you, whenever you want someone to truly take in your words, honesty must be wrapped in empathy. So be wrapped in empathy, because people don't remember every detail you say, but they always remember how you made them feel. When you strike this balance, feedback becomes more than a correction. It becomes a gift that says, I see your effort. I value your potential. And I believe you can do better. That belief is what pushes people forward. It's what makes them say, I want to rise, not because I was forced, but because I was inspired. Transformative feedback is never about what's wrong, but about what's possible. The human mind is naturally drawn to flaws. We see a mistake, and our instinct is to highlight it, analyze it, and sometimes magnify it. But focusing only on what's wrong is like staring at a closed door. You miss the open window right beside it. True feedback doesn't trap people with their mistakes. It shows them the path forward. It takes the conversation away from failure and directs it toward potential. Imagine an artist showing you a half-finished painting. If you only said, the proportions are wrong, the colors are off, the perspective is weak, what happens? The artist might feel discouraged, doubting their ability to continue. But what if you said, your use of light is brilliant, and if you adjust the perspective just a little, the whole scene will come alive. Suddenly, the feedback doesn't just point out errors. It paints a picture of what the finished masterpiece could look like. That's the difference between criticism and transformation. When feedback is focused on possibilities, it awakens hope. It tells people you're not stuck with this version of yourself. You can evolve, you can grow, you can rise higher. And that message is infinitely more powerful than any list of mistakes. People don't thrive on being told where they fell short. They thrive on being shown what they can become. Think about some of the greatest breakthroughs in history. Edison didn't see 1,000 failed experiments as proof of incompetence. He saw them as steps toward the light bulb. Imagine if someone had only told him, you're wrong again, this doesn't work. That would have been accurate, but not transformative. The feedback that truly fuels progress is the kind that says, you're closer than you think. If you try adjusting this angle, you'll find the answer. It shifts the focus from failure to possibility. And in that shift, it gives people the courage to keep going if you should keep going. There's a psychological truth hidden here. When people are told only what's wrong, their brains enter a defensive mode. They focus on protecting their ego rather than improving their skill. But when people are shown what's possible, their brains enter a creative mode. They feel challenged, but also supported. They see the gap not as a wall, but as a bridge they can cross. That shift in mindset is the spark that turns ordinary feedback into transformation. Consider a young student struggling in math. Or if the teacher says, "We're bad at this subject," that child's mind shuts down. The label sticks. But if the teacher says, "You're already great at solving puzzles, and math is just another kind of puzzle. You're closer to mastering it than you realize," suddenly the student sees a possibility. Boo. The feedback doesn't deny the struggle, but it reframes it as potential. That reframe can change the course of a child's future. The same is true in the workplace, in relationships, in personal growth. Feedback that dwells only on faults creates fear and hesitation. But feedback that highlights what could be possible creates momentum. It tells people they have something worth pursuing, and that belief fuels effort. People are far more likely to give their best when they can visualize a better version of themselves waiting on the other side. Transformative feedback is essentially an act of vision. It requires the giver to see beyond the immediate flaws and imagine what the person could achieve with a little guidance. It's the difference between saying, "You're not good enough," and "You're good enough to become even greater." The first freezes potential. The second unleashes it. This doesn't mean ignoring mistakes. Mistakes are real and they matter. But instead of framing them as dead ends, transformative feedback frames them as stepping stones. It's not, "You failed." If this failure is evidence you're learning, and if you build on it, you'll succeed. That simple shift changes how people respond. Instead of walking away defeated, they lean in with renewed determination. Imagine a musician playing the wrong notes during practice. A critic might say, "You're off key. This sounds bad." That's factual, but not transformative. A mentor might say, "Your timing is solid, and if you fine-tune these notes, your performance will captivate everyone." Same situation, but a completely different outcome. One destroys confidence. The other builds possibility. The truth is, possibility-focused feedback creates momentum because it speaks to identity. It tells people you are capable of more than this moment shows. And when people believe in their capability, push themselves harder, they persevere longer, and they achieve more than they thought possible. This is why some words echo in our minds for years. Not because they were the harshest, but because they revealed a glimpse of what we could be. A coach who said, "Or not just fast, you could be the fastest on this team." A mentor who said, "Your ideas aren't just good, they could change the way we work." Friend who said, "I'm just strong, you could be unshakable." These words are transformative because they don't trap us in the present. They invite us into the future. When feedback shifts from focusing on what's wrong to focusing on what's possible, it becomes a tool for vision, not just correction. It lifts instead of weighing down. It inspires instead of discouraging. It shows people not just the gap, but the greatness waiting beyond the gap. And that is where real transformation begins. You see, the secret to giving great feedback was never just about pointing at what's broken. It was always about unlocking what's hidden. It was never about saying, "Here's where you went wrong." It was always about asking. That's the power of words. Words can destroy, but they can also build. Words can close hearts, but they can also open minds. And when feedback is delivered with truth, with care, and with vision, it becomes more than advice. It becomes a spark. Think about it. Every single one of us has stood at some point in our lives with self-doubt heavy on our shoulders. Maybe it was at school. Maybe it was at work. Maybe it was in a dream we thought was too big. And in those moments, one voice, one sentence, one piece of feedback could either crush us or carry us. Which one do you want to be? The one who crushes or the one who carries? Let me ask you, what's more powerful? Telling someone you failed or telling them this failure is the foundation of your comeback? What's more life-changing? Saying you're not good at this or saying you're not good yet, but I see the greatness in you. If you keep going, do you hear the difference? One ends the story. The other writes a new chapter. That's why great feedback is not about being clever. It's about being courageous. Courageous enough to tell the truth, but kind enough to wrap that truth in belief. Because when you tell someone, "I believe in you," you give them permission to believe in themselves. And that belief can move mountains. Picture this. You give someone feedback today. Because of those words, they try again tomorrow. They improve, they grow, they rise. Years later, they look back and remember your words as the turning point. They remember you as the one who didn't just see their flaws, but saw their future. Do you realize how powerful that makes you? You didn't just give feedback, you shaped destiny. And that's the challenge I leave with you now. The next time you open your mouth to give feedback, ask yourself, am I tearing down or am I building up? Am I pointing to problems or am I painting possibilities? Am I leaving them weaker or am I leaving them stronger? Because every word you speak is a seed. You can plant weeds that choke growth, or you can plant seeds of greatness that grow for years. Maybe the world has told you before, you can't. Maybe someone gave you feedback that crushed your spirit. But here's the truth. They were wrong. You are not limited to what someone once told you. You are bigger than that. You are stronger than that. You are capable of more than anyone has ever seen in you. And if no one has told you this yet, let me be the first. You have greatness inside you. Yes, you. Not someday. Not maybe. Right now, feedback is the same. It's not just about guiding others. It's about guiding yourself. How do you talk to yourself when you fail? Do you say, "I'm useless, I'll never make it"? Or do you say, "This is tough, but it's shaping me into something better"? The feedback you give yourself matters just as much as the feedback you give others. And if you can master speaking possibility into your own life, you'll naturally start speaking possibility into the lives of everyone around you. So I challenge you, be the voice of growth, not the voice of defeat. Be the one who sees the hidden treasure in people when they can't see it themselves. Be the one who says, yes, you fell, but you're not finished. Be the one who reminds them, yes, you struggled, but you are stronger than you know. Be the one who looks at someone's flaws and says, I see your fight. I see your fire. And I know you can turn this into something extraordinary. Because when you give feedback like that, you're not just helping someone improve. You're changing the way they see themselves. And when someone changes the way they see themselves, they change the way they live their life. That ripple effect could go farther than you'll ever realize. So remember, feedback is not about what's wrong. It's about what's possible. Feedback is not about proving weakness. It's about proving potential. Feedback is not about shutting doors. It's about unlocking them. And you, yes, you, have the power to unlock greatness in someone with just a few words. The question is, will you use that power? Will you choose to be the critic who crushes or the guide who grows? The world has enough critics. What the world needs now are builders, believers, visionaries. People who can look at someone and say, you're not there yet, but I see the path and I'll walk with you. Because that's the secret. The secret to giving great feedback is not in the flaws you point out, but in the futures you ignite.